So yeah, so a comment on the U.S. government, banning refined grains in the 1940s because of it was beriberi and pellagra, vitamin B1 and vitamin B3 deficiency, and that was actually in 1943. Can bariatric surgery also cause dementia? I don't know that bariatric surgery is a cause. It certainly contributes to the malabsorption that can lead to nutritional deficiency that can contribute to decline, mental decline. So no doubt about that. I'm celiac. I think all celiacs were sensitive and then developed the autoimmune disease called celiac disease. I might have not become celiac if I knew not to eat grains. Yeah, you probably wouldn't have. I mean, understand that gluten sensitivity is in and of itself is not a disease. It's a state of genetics. And if you're genetically gluten sensitive and you eat gluten, you could develop celiac disease. But there are over 100 different forms of conditions that you could develop as a result of consuming gluten if you're gluten sensitive. So. How do you balance omega-6 to omega-3 not eating any grain? How do you balance it? You almost balance it relatively easy just by taking the grain out of your diet, because the vast majority of omega-6 either comes from the processed oils. So like if you're using processed cooking oils, trans fat's no longer as big of an issue today as it used to be. But if you're using a lot of safflower oil, it's a processed oil, sunflower oils, seed oils, and vegetable oils like soy oil, even though soy is not a vegetable, corn oil. These are high omega-6 oils, so get those out of your diet. Get good, fresh, wild-caught, cold water fish. That's going to get you good omega-3. You can get some plant-based pre-omega-3 substances out of flax and chia. Those are good options. But that's where you're going to get balance. It's not so much that people don't get adequate omega-3 so much as that they get so much omega-6. So cutting out that omega-6 helps bring that balance back. And again, it's not cutting out all omega-6, but it's cutting out an overabundance of it that's important to do. When you get to have a gluten-free diet working, what happens to the gluten protein in your body? What replaces it? I don't understand your question, Jane. I mean, other food replaces what you would have eaten when you avoid gluten in and of itself. If you're asking the fate of gluten as it's creating an inflammatory response in your body, is over time your body naturally eliminates it from the body. So the longer you stay gluten-free, the longer it's out of you. But I'm not quite sure I understand your question. Hi, Dr. Osborne. Does a leaky gut cause slow heartbeat, and what mimic myasthenia gravis? So there's two questions there, and I'm not. Can leaky gut cause a slow heartbeat? Theoretically, yes, but I would say more than a slow heartbeat. I would say you'd be more apt to develop a heart palpitation, so like successive rapid heartbeats that would occur as a result of exposure. As far as myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease, and so what mimics it, it's not necessarily, I don't understand your question, but gluten can contribute. I've seen several cases of myasthenia gravis go into remission by applying a gluten-free diet. So in that regard, I don't know if that was your question or not, but hopefully that answer helps you. I've switched from semolina durum pastas, which are wheat pastas, to those that are chickpea based. Is this a positive move or is it for nothing? If you're gluten sensitive, it's a very positive move. But at the same time, the chickpea based pastas, be cautious with any of these processed foods. The chickpea this and the chickpea that and the tapioca this and all the starchy foods that are out there. You can get into trouble with those too. They are gluten free, so they're definitely a better option. But just don't make them primary staples in your diet. If we can't eat amaranth seed, can we eat the leaves of the plant? Yeah, you can eat the leaves of the plant, but I don't recommend amaranth seed as a food because of the potential mimicry with gluten. Let's keep going down on that left side on that. There we go. I love that. Barbara says, hi from Arizona. So glad to find your vitamin C with no corn. That's right. Most vitamin C's contain corn. You have to be very, very careful with most brands. Somebody's asking about my thoughts on Alzheimer prescription drugs. Look, I've seen many patients go on those drugs in absolutely zero benefit. So my thoughts on them are the drugs don't fix it. And again, most people, by the time they're ready to start on those medications, they've let it go too far. Again, the key with Alzheimer's dementia is you've got to grab it early and you've got to start reversing it early. It's almost impossible to reverse if you let it go too far. Is it true that bone broth, like the popular powdered kind, has gluten in it? I would just say any kind of product that you're buying over the counter, you want to verify the reputation of the company and verify the ingredients of the product. I can't speak for that particular company. When you have craving for salty food, is it a brain issue or a gut issue? May not be either. You may just need salt. It may be a nutritional issue. I heard that diet sodas are a factor in Alzheimer's. Diet sodas are chemical slurries of toxins. I mean, depending on which one of the sweeteners you're talking about. Sucralose is chlorinated sugar, which is very toxic. And then you have the others, the aspartame, which is, the aspartame is the other primary sweetener found in diet sodas, which is a neurotoxin. It's horrible stuff. And both of them elevate your blood sugar anyway. So those of you that are taking diet sodas to reduce your sugar intake, know that you're creating the same scenario in your body. The perception that your body has of those is that you're still going to have an insulin spike. You're still going to have a glucose spike as a result of using those sugars. They don't do your diabetes or your blood sugar any favors. I love this. My mother's doctor prodded her, gave her pills, and I found she probably had beriberi, gave her high-dose vitamin B1 and magnesium. After a few weeks, her symptoms improved, told the doctors what I did, but they dismissed me. They always will. You have to understand, fundamentally, if you figure something out of your own and your doctor's not willing to hear you, then you don't really have a doctor. What you have is a glorified technician. Because any doctor's not willing to learn from the patient's experience, they're not worth your time. I say doctors who, their time is so valuable. If they're not willing to listen to you, they're not worth your time. It's best to move on and find a different doc. Can gluten from corn cause nighttime waking? Can histamine levels be responsible for nighttime waking? Yes to both questions, Sue. Okay, once gluten-free, how long on average does it take to regulate vitamin and mineral levels back to normal? For instance, iron and vitamin D. Can gut issues extend the healing? On average, my experience, I would say anywhere from 12 to 18 months to get them regulated. It takes time, and here's why. I mean, it's a really good question. When you're getting glutened your whole life, and you have all this damage and inflammation, and you're malnourished, step one is just stopping the fire, and that's removing the gluten. But once the fire is stopped, your body still has to heal and repair from all the damage, which requires large quantities of nutrients. And so that first 6 to 12 months is just pouring in great nutrients to help your body heal and repair, to support those mechanisms. So before you get on an even level playing field nutritionally, it really can take that long. What role does MTHFR play in this? So MTHFR, methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, is an enzyme that we all code for. There's a gene called MTHFR, and there are different variants on this gene that may make it harder for your body to basically utilize folate or methylate folate properly. And so that can increase the risk of developing elevations in homocysteine, and that subsequently can increase the risk for homocysteine-induced inflammation. So MTHFR, in my experience, though, plays a minor role. Most people aren't sick because they have a genetic mutation. Look, almost everybody has some degree of MTHFR mutation, but not everybody is sick from that genetic variant. So in my experience, it has more to do with that mutation combined with various other factors in that person's diet or lifestyle that just put them at a disadvantage. How much B1 would someone take to use as a daily preventative? Anywhere from 20 to 50 milligrams would be just a very safe and preventative quantity to have. Let's see. Oh gosh, more on the disease that shall not be named injections cause problems? Simply put, yes. In a very, very big way they can. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I would like to keep my YouTube channel from being completely closed down. Are liquid vitamins easier to absorb than standard tablets? No, actually, liquids are generally less stable, and the liquids are generally, the vitamins go bad a lot faster, so they actually lose their potency much, much quicker the second you open the liquid itself. So I don't care for liquid formulations. I like capsules best, because the powders, you can encapsulate them and you can protect them and shield them from oxygen and oxidation, where you can't do that so well with liquids. What do you suggest for vegetarians or vegans instead of fish? I suggest, well, if you're a vegetarian, you can be a pesca vegetarian, so I mean you can eat fish. But if you're against that, I suggest supplementation, because you're not going to get it from other foods, not to any great degree. And what do I mean get it? I mean omega-3. You're not going to get enough pure omega-3 EPA or DHA from chia or flax. You'll get what's called linolenic acid, which isn't the same thing, and your body has to convert linolenic acid into omega-3 EPA and DHA. So if that's what you're referring to, when I was talking about fish oil. But if you're talking about other things like vitamin B12, you're not going to get the vitamin B12 in maybe in adequate quantities. So it's a good idea if you're trying to be vegetarian. I can respect that, but you should be getting tested. You should get a B12 test, an intracellular B12 test, not a serum B12 test. Intracellular, you should be checking your zinc and you're checking your iron. You should be checking really all of your nutrients, because a vegetarian diet doesn't contain complete proteins. And so even a small amount of fish is why, like, vegetarian, if somebody's willing to eat some fish, I prefer people to attempt a pesca vegetarian diet, because then at least they can get occasional complete sources of protein with B12 and many of the other amino acids that they may not be getting from just a really restrictive only plant-based diet. Most of the dementia workups I see include serum B12, thyroid, RPR. What additional levels would you recommend? So first of all, serum B12, I would say, Janice, is a waste of time, a waste of paper to print it on. Intracellular, not just B12, but all the nutrients, all 40 essential nutrients are important. Measure your homocysteine, measure your hemoglobin A1C. Hemoglobin A1C is a measure of your average blood sugar. Measure your glucose, measure your fasting insulin. See how your body is processing glucose, whether or not it's capable or whether or not you're at risk for elevations in blood sugar. Those are the things that I would encourage you to measure. Measure for food sensitivities, measure for chemical reactivity, because those are going to be the things that are contributing to the chronic inflammation that leads to the inflammatory brain outcome of dementia, right? No other tests are really going to tell you anything definitive. Those things tell you what the triggers are, and that's what you need to know in order to take meaningful action. My father has sarcopenia and he's presenting some signs of dementia. Is there correlation with that? Yeah, because sarcopenia is two reasons. So if those of you who don't know what sarcopenia is, it's age-related muscle loss. But really, that definition is actually, in my opinion, not real accurate. Muscle loss has nothing to do with age. Muscle loss has to do with lack of activity over time. That's not the same thing as aging. You can maintain your muscle by staying active as you age, and this has been proven time and time again in a number of studies. So reasons people might lose their muscle as they age: one is inactivity, two is inadequate protein, three is poor digestion of protein, meaning you've damaged your gut by eating the wrong foods, and the cells that make acid don't make enough acid, so when you try to eat protein, you're not digesting as well, and you don't get to all those amino acids to restore and to rebuild and to maintain your muscle mass. So again, this is largely a nutritional issue, as most illness is. What do you take to clean toxins in your body? It's not something that you take, Anna, to cleanse toxins. It's what you do to prevent toxins from coming in consistently over time in the first place. Like a detox should not be your primary tool to preserve your health. Where we'll do detoxes if we find somebody that's overloaded with heavy metal or overloaded, they live in a moldy home or moldy environment, and we've got to, detoxify those individuals from those things. But to just do detoxes periodically, you're naturally detoxifying if you support your body's health. If you exercise, get sunshine, get sleep, eat well, Do the things that are important and fundamental to health. Your body naturally detoxifies every single day of your life. Let's keep going down on the right and the left. Can someone get a gluten sensitivity diagnosis and have diet nutrition prescribed as a treatment or medical management? Yeah, they can, depending on who you see. But I would just say if you're looking for diet nutrition prescription for medical management, you're barking up a bad tree, because most dietitians, and this again, if you're watching this show and you're a dietitian, don't take this as an affront to you personally, but most dietitians, in my experience, are nothing than glorified carb, fat, and protein counters. They don't understand micronutrition. They don't understand biochemistry. They don't understand the nuances of physiology. And so they're not really going to guide you, other than to say, if you have celiac disease, don't eat wheat, barley, and rye. They'll tell you to eat all the corn and all the rice and all the processed gluten-free packaged foods that you want, because they don't understand true nutrition and true health. So medical management of these things has failed. So that's where I would just warn you and say be cautious around seeking a diagnosis so that you can have medical management. It's not the diagnosis that you need to seek. It's the behavior change in your own life that you need to seek, and learn how to manage it on your own. Become your own doctor to a certain extent, because nobody knows your body better than you. Does monk fruit always contain other additives? No. It doesn't always contain other additives, but many brands do. So you go down on the right. No, keep going down. Yeah, there you go. Keep going down. Okay, let's see. Terry's asking about D3 and K2 as MK7 versus MK4 is better on a blood thinner. Really, the only K that you're concerned with on a blood thinner, it's not the MK4, the MK7, it's the K1. K1 is the type of vitamin K that works in the clotting cascade, but K2 not so much. Should magnesium be taken with B1? Not necessarily, but it can be. Again, this is where the generic question is, yeah, take them together, because it's just better to take a comprehensive array of vitamins and minerals as a good multivitamin, multi-mineral. But, in my world where we test people every day, right, I don't always see vitamin B1 and magnesium deficiency go hand in hand. So in some cases, I give vitamin B1 without giving magnesium, and vice versa. So it's not a necessity per se if you're testing and you know what you need. Let's see. I think I answered that. Go down on the left-hand side. Are there special places where they do intracellular nutrition measurements? I say special places. I mean, if you have a good relationship with a good nutritional doc, yeah. We're actually getting ready. I've been working on this for months now to launch an intracellular test direct to the public. Because doctors, I mean, look, of all the, how many board certified clinical nutritional doctors there are in the world? There's less than 400. So there aren't enough of us to go around for everybody that needs it, and that's why we're launching this. So pay close attention. I'm hoping to have it ready for you guys sometime in January, February of 2022. Let's see here. Is Alzheimer's genetic? There can be genetic component to it, but again, I would say it's less genetic and it's more. So in science, we have this old argument. It's called nature versus nurture. In essence, is genetics really nothing more than shared and learned behavior, right? You learn to eat from your parents. You learn to behave from your parents. So is a disease association passed from them to you really genetic, or is it shared and learned behavior? I think it's a little bit of both, but I think most scientists agree in today's day and age, it's somewhere along the lines of 70 to 80% of disease development is your choice. The other 10 or 20 to 30%, there is a genetic predisposition or genetic undertone, but don't be too quick to blame your genes for your problems. Always look at what choices you're making first. I was told to stop taking the recommended vitamins I was taking as they were synthetic. How to tell the difference? Does it matter? That's a huge topic. We could get into that whole topic and spend hours talking about it, but I don't know who told you that or under what auspice they told you that, or even if they knew what they were talking about. So it's hard for me to really comment on it. Can untreated psychosis lead to dementia? Yes. We actually could say untreated psychosis is a form of neurological brain inflammation already. So what is dementia versus what is psychosis? Generally speaking, dementia is classified in people as they age, where psychosis can occur at any age. Is that just brain inflammation and cognitive decline at a much earlier age than what we would care to call it dementia? And I think that's part of what psychosis can be. Do we need to be sure a gluten-free is labeled on products that should be gluten-free, like organic beans or canned vegetables? Was told it has to say it on the label. No, it doesn't, but it's a nice vote of confidence if it does. I mean, if a product is just green beans, as an example, there's probably not gluten in it. I mean, unless they processed it, alongside a bunch of wheat, then there's that potential possibility. So if they're not labeling the product, it's always best to call the manufacturer of the company to get clarity. Otherwise, consider not using it. Just found out I have mold in the home. Could this cause dementia or forgetting things? Absolutely. Mold toxicity, especially in the home-based environment, is one of the biggest destroyers of a healthy brain. It can damage your vision, it can damage your memory, it can damage your word recall. Mold is no joke, and if you have found that you have mold in your home, get out as quickly as you possibly can. Your body will thank you, and people recover when they get out of the mold, but as long as you live in it, the inflammation is relentless. 8 weeks out from a total knee replacement, can I start carbolic acid to decrease my candida overgrowth? Are you talking about caprylic acid? Just don't want to do anything to hurt my knee prosthesis. So if you're talking about caprylic acid, it's perfectly safe and perfectly fine. You should also, consider looking at a probiotic, because if you did surgery, you most likely were on prophylactic antibiotics, through the IV to prevent the potential for infection. And so you probably need to help support your microbiome's recovery. And the other things post-surgically, I mean, glutamine is fantastic, branched-chain amino acids, vitamin C, and zinc, all will aid the healing process post-surgically. My clients always heal 2 to 3 times faster when we get them on solid post-surgery nutrition. So good nutrition post-surgically is very important. Does Parkinson's lead to dementia? So think of Parkinson's and dementia as 2 different types of brain inflammation that just present a little bit differently. I don't know that necessarily that one leads to the other, that they're both kind of flavors of the same underpinning tone or undertone. Is there a way to eliminate mild dementia completely? Yes. There are a number of studies ongoing. There are a number of my colleagues, too, that are treating dementia and Alzheimer's early. And mind you, early. That's why we keep talking about repeating that, early onset, right? With very, very good outcomes. But you got to catch it early. Can I take collagen if I've been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, collagen vascular disease? If I can, what type? Yes, you can. I would say if you use our Ultra Collagen, you'll know it's grain-free, but it's all types of collagen, so it helps with hair, skin, and joints as well. Will K2 help with the plaque formation removal? It may, depending on what your plaque is formed by. So, I mean, there are nuances to what forms a plaque. So bad insomnia, how does that play into this? So insomnia over time can diminish your brain's ability to recover and repair at night, which can lead to dementia, and that How does that play? You got to get good sleep. So if you're struggling with sleep, you really have to get somebody who understands sleep biology. There are a lot of reasons why sleep disruption can occur, from hormone imbalance to blood sugar imbalances to lack of exercise to lack of sunshine to lack of melatonin production to certain medications to overconsumption of caffeine. I mean, this is a laundry list. What you may do is go back and watch my show on sleep in my archive, in my video archive. And those of you who don't know, go over, visit me at glutenfreesociety.org. We've got a section at the top that says videos. That's our video archive. And you can thumb through those videos and you can learn a lot more at your leisure as well. Let's see here. So as far as blood tests to stop blood thinners, I mean, that's a great question for your cardiologist or your prescribing doctor, but I mean, some standard blood tests that are commonly looked at, depending on what kind of blood thinner you're on, are your clotting time tests. Your prothrombin and your prothrombin time are two that are commonly looked at. There's also something called INR. But these things, if you're on thinners, you should be having that checked anyway, because the problem with thinners is if they overthin your blood, you can get internal bleeding, internal bruising, and they can make a mess of you. Can ketones help with dementia? If your dementia is caused by, excessive glucose, it can. Ketone can. I wouldn't say supplemental ketones would be the solution. I would say more eating lower carbohydrate to get into ketosis would be a better solution. Okay, I think we're out of time. And we're not out of questions. So I just want to say thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for joining me on Monday. We'll be back next Monday for another show. Next week, we're going to talk about surviving the shortages. So if you're worried about the potential shortages, we already are starting to see many of them in the grocery store. We're going to be talking about strategies and tips around how to navigate that, what you can do today to prepare for the potential possibility of very real and bad food shortages, especially if you're gluten sensitive and you need to maintain your healthy diet in order to maintain your function should things go bad or things go wrong. So we're going to be talking all about what to do, how to prepare for a gluten-free emergency next week. Join me at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And as always, thanks for tuning in, and make sure you come visit me at glutenfreesociety.org. Sign up for our newsletter there. As I've said before, I'll keep saying it, we're actually getting ready to do all of our communication through Gluten Free Society. So if you're not a part of that, you need to get to be a part of it if you want to keep hearing from me, because that's where we're moving. We're migrating a lot of our information, a lot of our platform over so that we're no longer being censored, and then I can talk freely. So if you really want to pick my brain about the disease that shall not be named and other topics, you want to migrate over to Gluten Free Society, because that's where you're going to get no holds barred, gluten-free warrior Dr. Osborne talking about everything without the worry of having censorship shutting us down. So a lot of you had questions tonight. I kind of avoided answering for that reason. Again, we don't want to cannibalize our ability to help people by talking about things that we are certain will get us shut down. We've already seen the massive levels of censorship this year just on my own platform. So I'd like to be able to keep communicating until we have that technology set up in place on Gluten Free Society to accommodate you all. So again, that's coming very near in the future. Make sure you're on my newsletter. Go over to glutenfreesociety.org and sign up for that newsletter, and you'll stay informed. Hope you have a fantastic week. We'll see you next Monday for another episode of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. Take care. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.